Good evening. Tonight we're going to look at how you convert a mixed number, or excuse me, an improper fraction back to a mixed number. The earlier video was mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now the process is actually the exact opposite of what we did in order to find the improper fraction. So if you think back to what we did yesterday, we said we were going to multiply, we're going to multiply our denominator, that bottom number, the one that represents how many pieces we cut our objects into, or our groups. We're going to multiply that by our whole number, 2, because that's the two full groups that had 5 pieces each. And of course, in this case, 2 times 5 is 10. And then we're going to add in our numerator, which was our remainder, if you will. It's the 3 extra pieces that were not in whole groups. And we came up with an improper fraction like 13/5. 13 representing, again, how many pieces we're using out of all the groups. Fifths representing that every group was broken into 5 pieces. So in this case, I probably had 3 groups that were broken into 5 pieces each, so that's where the fifths comes from. But of those 3 groups, 2 whole groups of them having 10 parts, and 3 extra parts gave me my 13. And what we're going to just quickly look at tonight, because we're really over halfway there, is how now to move from that 13/5. Let's say I did some adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing. This is the answer I came up with. Converting it back to a mixed number. Well, something to understand about improper fractions, and the reason we would even bother doing this, they're rather hard to understand. They're rather hard to comprehend. What in the world? 13/5? Then you have to sit there in your head and, like I tell the kids, you're going to be redoing all that math in your head. Okay, 13 pieces, 5 pieces per group. Okay, 5, it takes 2 groups. And you're just going to sit there in your head and try to work out a picture of what this looks like, where with a mixed number, it's a little more obvious what it means. Okay, 2 whole groups and a remainder of 3/5 in the next group. So we always want to convert our answers, or convert our final fractions, especially the impropers, the impropers for sure, back to a mixed number. So for example now, with my 13/5, let's look quickly at the parts of that 13/5. We have right here the denominator, we have here the fraction bar, and above it we have the numerator. Now that fraction bar could also be called a division bar, because technically what it is saying is you're dividing that group of numerators up into so many denominators. So we really want to think of that as more a division symbol than just a fraction bar. Another way to look at it is, if this was a division problem, what we're really saying is, with a denominator in a division problem, the denominator is really the divisor, the number we're dividing by. So if we think of it that way, and you think of that division house, which the kids are used to making for division, that would put the 5 right here. And I'll show you in a second. It would put the 5 right there, the divisor. The 13 is actually the dividend in this case. It's the number I'm going to divide by. So this is really 13 divided by 5. And that's why when we get fractions like 8/2, for example, 8/2, we would say, well, really, this has a value of 4 because 2 goes into 8 4 times. The kids are used to looking at those kind of conversions to a whole number. But with a mixed number, the thing that throws you off is that remainder. And like I told the kids, the remainder is going away. This is really expressed as a fraction now. Or if you're working in the calculator, it's going to be expressed as a decimal. So we do our work. We say, okay, will 5 go into 1? No, 5 won't go into 1. So what I have the kids do is they put an X over that first place. Now, obviously, with this smaller number, this isn't as necessary, but sometimes the numbers are larger. So 5 would not go into the 1, but will 5 go into 13, the first 2 digits? And in this case, yes, 5 is a much smaller number than 13, 13 being a tens place number. It's in the teens, so 5 goes into 13. We're going to try 2 times because 2 times 5 is 10. And we express that just like this. Well, that 2 is your quotient. That's your answer. As we said in one of the earlier videos, that's the answer to the division problem. What that's really saying is, in that number 13, I can get 2 whole groups of 5. Now, did you hear the word there? 2 whole groups. 2 is going to be my whole number in my mixed number. So I get the 2. Now, 2 times 5 is 10, and 13 minus 10, looking for the remainder, much like we would normally do, and I kind of set it up so it would fall here for us. Look where that remainder is really at here. The 3 is what's left over. 3 is a remainder, so I'm going to move my 2. It's not in the best spot there. 2. A remainder of 3. Now that's 3 extra pieces out of a hole that is never going to be filled. We're never going to fill that whole hole because it's missing 2 of the 5 pieces necessary. So really what we're saying is when we say there's a remainder of 3, as we would in a normal division problem, much like this, a remainder of 3, we're really saying 3 out of 5 parts, or 3/5. That gets our mixed number right back down here, 2 3/5. Okay? Which, if you look back, that was what we actually started with. Let's do a couple together just for practice, because I know these move along pretty quick. So give you a moment here, and we will do some practice ones. Okay, I know the explanation went pretty fast, but now we're going to take a moment and do some practice. And really, this is one of those areas in math where if you know the steps to the process, you can still do it even if we aren't yet comprehending what's really happening. We're going to continue working with that comprehension in the classroom, but hopefully, we'll still be able to do the assignments and be able to work through the fractions until that comprehension comes by doing some practice here with the skills. Now, I want to remind you, we're going for an improper fraction to a mixed number. We're actually doing a division problem. For a mixed number to an improper, we're doing a multiplication problem. They're exactly the opposite of each other. And they should be because they can jump back and forth to each other. So let's start with 16/3. Okay, so right now on your paper, if you'll write 16/3, and what I'll do is I'll help you set up the division problem this time and let you work through that, and then we'll talk about how you get that mixed number. So again, we're setting up a division problem. So we're going to draw our division house. 16 is the dividend. It's going inside the division house. 3 is the divisor. It's going outside the division house. And I'm going to give you a moment to work the problem. And if you can get it to the mixed number, let's do that. And then we'll take a look at what you have. Okay, hopefully you hit pause and you've had a chance to work out the division problem. I worked out the division problem myself, and I came up with 5 remainder 1. Now, quick reminder, that 5 is telling me that if the 16 is broken up into groups of 3, for each group to be full, there's going to be 5. So that's going to be a whole group, 5 whole groups, or in other words, my whole number, 5. The remainder is one piece out of a group of 3. So in the end, remainder 1 is really 1 out of 3, or 1/3. So I'm going to give you a moment to combine yours. Have you done that? All right. Hopefully you came up with 5 1/3. If not, work it out again, see if you can put it together, and we're going to come back in a moment and do another one together. Okay, let's try one for a little challenge now. This time, we're going to work with the improper fraction, 21/8. So we're going to set up our division problem. Remember, the numerator, that top number, is the dividend. It's going inside the division house. It's the total number you started with. So we started with 21 pieces, and we're going to divide that into 8 groups. So again, your division problem you're working with should look just like this. 21 divided by 8. I'll give you a moment, see if you can divide it and come up with a mixed number, and we'll compare in just a second. Go ahead, hit pause. Okay, hopefully you hit pause, otherwise I'm going to sit here for a long time. So what we're going to do next, you hopefully have done your division. Did you come up with 2 remainder 5? Well, I hope you did. 2 remainder 5 is the quotient and remainder for that division problem. 2 whole groups of 8. So again, there's that key word, whole, the whole number, the large number, 2 and then of course your remainder was 5. You had 5 extra pieces that weren't being used, that were a remainder. If you want, you could say they're a fraction of a whole that you're not going to be using. And seeing that every single whatever group or item you had that was broken into 8 pieces, that's my denominator. So again, we're going to have 5 eighths. 2 and 5 eighths should be your mixed number. You should be able to make these yourself all you want. As long as that numerator is greater than the denominator, you can practice these over and over again. Just make sure you divide them. Numerator divided by the denominator. Also be careful, because right now we haven't started working on simplifying, so I really don't want you worrying about the number being in simplest form yet. Just come up with that mixed number, and we'll be dealing with simplest form in a little while. All right, hope you have a good evening.